Hey everyone, thanks for checking out what's in the box. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Every new subscriber means a lot to me, and I hope you'll join me on my little toy journey here. Today is a real flashback for me. As many of you know, I grew up in the 80s, fairly young, and having all these toys come back into my life at the age that I am, it's just really a throwback for me, and it really gets the nostalgia going. And this is a particular figure that gives me a lot of nostalgia because I was there when the character was introduced on G.I. Joe. And of course, today I'll be taking a look at Serpentor from Hasbro. This figure includes both the character and the air chariot that he was known for in the show. So of course we'll get to this figure right now because this I command. So here we have Serpentor out of the package, and he does come with a number of accessories. I'm glad for that because the price point is kind of up there in the $70 to $80 range, and once you add in shipping, you're going to hit $90 easily. So yeah, it's nice that they went an extra step or two, particularly with accessories, but of course also with the Chariot. Now the figure is a nice, cool update of the original. They stay fairly faithful to the costume. He always did have sort of the snakes intertwined around his neck and then coming out around his pectoral muscles. And from time to time he'd have one wrapped around his arm possibly. I remember him throwing one as sort of a spear a few times, and he always had sort of a knee-high boot and armor, and especially the shroud, the cobra-headed shroud. And they capture that really well here. The colors are fairly bold. You do have a muted gold over most of the figure, but there are little touches of a much brighter gold. The green is pretty good, and I don't really see any paint splotches or any little weird issues going on here. So that's nice. As you can tell, he's pretty beefy compared to some of the other figures. He's kind of got a strong build, which is good. Of course, if you know anything about his history as a character, his DNA was scavenged from various historical characters and warriors, and so he came to be by Dr. Mindbender splicing all this together and creating the perfect leader of Cobra. You do get this nice little cape, and funny enough, they added some detail in here that I'm thankful for. You get this scaling that's all over. It's sort of embossed into the cape, and that's pretty neat. They could have just had it just a plain straight cape with nothing there, but they did go an extra step and add in that scaling look, and I think that helps with the figure. As you can see on the chest, we have the gold that I mentioned, a much brighter gold. He has some around his elbows and various other little places, and that works really well for the figure. They captured a very stern look in the head sculpt, and I think that's a nice touch as well. Now, as we get off into the accessories, you'll obviously notice this nice big cobra here, and that's a quite cool touch. It's painted fairly well. It's maybe not as bright as I would like it to be, but the sculpt's really great, and there's a lot of scaling in the tail. You can see that along the body here. And the underbelly is painted fairly nicely, and even the mouth has a good bit of detail, black eyes, and so it's a nice touch. You do have the aforementioned snake spear that he threw from, I believe, his wrist a time or two, particularly in the G.I. Joe movie. And it's perfectly captured, just a straight snaky spear. It's a darker green than the ones on his shoulders, which is, I don't know, odd, I guess. I would think they would match that up, but maybe they wanted it to stand out a little bit. It doesn't have a lot of bend to it, but there's some. Not a lot of paint to it either. You can see some black eyes there, and that's about it. Now, I don't remember him having a sword, but they have given him a sword here, and it has some nice cool detail. It just doesn't look like a flat straight sword, and it has a lot of inner engraving and stuff here, and that's cool. It's a nice silver tone. You can see it catching the light here. And then it has a nice gold handle that matches most of his armor, and they have a little red jewel there. Right here is actually a cobra's face, which is a cool little touch. You can move on to the staff here. Again, don't remember a staff, but you never know. It's been a while. And it has the cobra head, and it has some nice red eyes. Maybe not. It just seems to be catching some color, but anyway. And then scaling on the inner side, and on the back side it has some scaling right down the spine. And it's mostly just a regular gold color. And then the end of the staff here has a little red jewel on both sides. Not too bad at all. Now you can move on to these claw apparatuses. One is meant to be retracted and one is meant to be extended. They're a straight gray paint with silver blades. And you can add either of those to his wrist here. There's a peg system there, and you can just pop that in like so, and he has some crazy blades sticking from his wrist like a predator. I think I prefer the longer ones compared to the shorter ones, but that's really all up to you. He does have this little switch out option, which is cool. I kind of do like this version of the headdress, but they gave you one with a bit more movement. So you can simply wiggle that out of place, and you can get some head movement. If you get that peg that's back there, you can get a little head movement out of this one, back and forth, up and down a little, and that's not too shabby. But if you want to maximize that, you pop the headdress right off, and then you add this little cap here, pegged in like that, and then you have another cobra hood there, and you slip that down behind his back. Let's see here, and you insert it like that, and this will give you a maximum amount of head tilt and movement side to side if you require that for the figure. I think I'm leaning a little more towards this hood personally. I don't exactly expect him to be doing too much head movement there, but we can pop into articulation. He has a pretty good T-pose. This is a brand new figure, so I'm not going to go too crazy with it. Alright, and so there, both elbows are extended, arms extended, all that good stuff. He's of course got elbow articulation, wrist articulation, and then he has bicep as well. We'll put those down a little bit. Pick him up some here. He does have some midriff, and that's not too bad. And then of course typical waist articulation, hips, mid hip or mid thigh. All right. He even has some mid calf articulation, knee and foot swivel. Yeah, those swivel. That's crazy amount of swivel. Oh, got a broken ankle there. But yeah, he's decently articulated, and I don't think you'll have too many complaints about that. Now, I would watch the ankle some. I noticed I pulled this one out of the package. They were nice and stiff, and then I kind of worked them a little bit, and now they're fairly loose. So just be careful with that. That might cause you some issues. I would just take him straight out of the package, put him on a stand, and be done. I don't want you guys having too much loose articulation in the ankles. It'll cause all kinds of issues falling over here. But there we have the figure. And I think it's about time we got on to the Air Chariot. And I'll give you a quick breakdown of that as well. Alright, so here we have the Chariot. And it's really nicely detailed. It just has a flat gold paint job for the most part. But there are a nice selection of details and decals. You have on both wings the Cobra symbol as well as the caution gun reactor symbol here. As you turn it around, you have a number of little gauges on the hub here, and then you have these two foot pedals with pegs. You even have this turbine here in the back, and that does turn. It's difficult to get it to go, but it does go. Then you have along here, I guess, sort of the make and model, which is G6116. And you have these front grills as well. A lot of little rivets and details here really make it great, especially here back towards the turbine. Has a very sort of alien spacecraft look to it, and I think they did a great job there. As you get to the bottom, there's even more decals showing you where the hydraulics are, where to remove a panel, and of course the Cobra symbol again. It does have a little kickstands here you can pop out. This one's a little more difficult, obviously. You get that out there. Now they will give on you, especially if you put a lot of pressure on them. Just be aware of that. And I will try to avoid it the best I can during the review. Now immediately you have sort of this steering column for the Chariot, and it has a little gauge detail there, and even little details on the handle. Look really nice. It has a ball joint, but there's really no purpose for that ball joint other than to lock this in place. You can move on to the head of the serpent, the Cobra front end of the Chariot, and it's nicely detailed as well. I mean, you have all these little scales running along it. You've got the head detail here, and then you have this pop of gold that runs the belly of the snake. The mouth will even open some, as you can see here, and there's even a little gun inside. It's not the easiest thing to get out, but you get a nail in there just right, you can get that silly thing out of there. All right, and there you can see the gun inside the mouth. And then, forgive me, Serpentor, I must use your sword here to pick at the teeth of the snake. And possibly pop those out. And so there are the teeth that come out as well. Now this again has a ball joint here, which serves no real purpose. You're locking it in with these and then just popping it in there. So you'll start out at the top and it slides right in just like that. Now you end up with a couple airfoils that come in the package, or at least that's what I'm going to call them. And they attach in the port right here. You can pop that one in. And then you just do the same with the next. It's really cool, nice, nicely put together Chariot. And then the last of the details are these machine guns here. You will pop the barrel in like so, and then you have this chain of bullets. The black piece goes to the side, the rest goes into the back, just like that. We'll set that. See there, one of the kickstand pieces gave out on me. It's really easy to do. Again, like I said, you can't put a ton of pressure on it, but it's not horrible. All right, we'll add the barrel there. We'll again do the bullets. All right, and then pop that in place. And the leg went on me again. All right, so there you have the Chariot. Like I said, it's really cool. The turbine moving, the little airfoils, the machine guns, the Cobra head itself, all the details that you would hope and expect from this particular toy. Yeah, I think it's worth the price point. You're looking at paying about $25 for the figure and about $50 for the Chariot. So it's not a horrible price tag. So let's put Serpentor on here just so you can kind of get an idea. We will put his feet in these pegs here, hopefully, on the first try. So we got one there, and got the other over here. And then of course you can just move these hands up here and position them on the handles. And it's not too difficult to do. So there you have him riding on his mighty chariot, like the king he thinks he is. I don't know if you guys remember exactly, but Serpentor was kind of a douche. And he kind of come along, and I started going, I kind of missed the Cobra Commander dude being in charge of everything. But anyway, he was a cool character, and it's nice to see Hasbro go out of their way to fulfill another figure that everyone would really want in their collection. Chariot and all, I think it's a pretty cool addition, and they have announced a few other vehicles. Of course, we all know the Hiss tank, and then the little bubble machines. What were they really called? Trouble Bubble? I don't know. Whatever they were, the Cobra flew around in those, and we'll be getting a couple of those. I may have to get 2 of them, just depending on the price point. But yeah, I'm really enjoying these figures, and hopefully I'll soon be reviewing more of them for you. But hopefully you enjoyed the review, and as always, I'll catch you next time.